A couple of weeks ago, I posted a video about this tournament called Road to Glory, and I ended up signing up, and I just wanted to show you all a couple of games from this tournament because I think this is a really cool kind of blast from the past, basically. The rules are you can only use cards from Call of the Crystals. And so what I did is I went and back and I looked at some decks that won the World Championships and were played in the World Championships in 2012, and I just net decked them. I didn't make any changes at all. I just used those decks, and it's been going really well for me. I won round one against a fellow guildmate, BT Rocket, and then I just won my second round matchup against RSC Dog. These were actually pretty tough matchups, and so I do want to just go and quickly cover a couple of these games because I think they were quite close and very interesting games. So this first game is actually the second game in our series where I'm going second, and I'm going second against Zaladar. And so this is always tricky because I think Zaladar is a very aggressive hero, and so I want to make sure that I'm not just going to lose outright to this early rush. And so what I do here is I sacrifice some of my high cost stuff that I'm unlikely to play if I can't do something early and just Crippling Blow the Death Bone. Now, I normally do not like Crippling Blow on an ally, but I think against Zaladar. Okay, I'm trying to pause. Okay, there we go. I normally don't like to Crippling Blow Zaladar's allies because Zaladar tends to run stuff like Sacrificial Lamb. But I think actually, I would have to check, but Sac Lamb might not be a Call of the Crystals card. I'm not totally sure. But yeah, anyway, it's kind of necessary here anyway, even if they are running Sacrificial Lamb, because I need to make sure that I don't just lose. I did make a really interesting choice there. I played Blood Frenzy on turn 3. Now, the reason I played Blood Frenzy there is because on turn 4, I want to play Jeweler's Dream. And so if I waited to play Blood Frenzy, I would be playing it on turn 5, and that's just a little late. I don't think I can sacrifice. I just want some more cards, basically. And so I do take the damage. And just so I can play Blood Frenzy on turn 3 instead of playing my Crippling Blow on turn 3. I figure I can just play it on turn 4, and we'll see that happen. Now, what this does effectively mean is that I am lower on health than I would have been if I chose the other way, but that is how it goes. Now, I do have a very interesting choice here because I don't know what to sacrifice. Enrage is going to help keep me alive, so I need to keep this. Priest of the Light is also going to help keep me alive. It's going to give me 1 health and also reduce the opposing shadow hero ability by 1 shadow energy. So that's really nice. And Birgitte is normally a bad card, but against Zaladar, it's an amazing card. It's going to prevent Zaladar from targeting any of my other allies because it has Protector. So all of these cards are ones I want to keep. Now, my ultimate decision was to sacrifice the Birgitte. So the reason I did that is because I figure Zaladar can easily kill Priest of the Light, but not when I drain his shadow energy. So I'm keeping both of these because next turn I'm planning to play both of them, reduce his shadow energy back down to 2, and so then on his turn he won't be able to activate his ability. Meanwhile, I'm just doing the plan I set up from the previous turns, Jeweler's Dream into Crippling Blow, so being very efficient with our resources there. Now, my plan is going to get a little bit disrupted because my opponent plays Shadowfont. So this plan I had about saving up both Priest of the Lights just so that I can reduce his shadow energy so he can't use his ability doesn't quite pan out because of the fact that, well, he's still going to have enough shadow energy, but I figure I'm going to go for it anyway. At the very least, it's taking away pressure from face, so at least he's not targeting my face with that ability. So it's not all bad. And it looks like most elementals, I think our opponent has a very hard time finding their draw. So yeah, here I go Dirk Saber, kill the Death Mage Thaddeus there, and I play the Enrage because I don't have enough allies in the grave for Honored Dead. Honored Dead is a draw card while you have 3 allies in your graveyard. Now that the Dirk Saber is dead, I can actually go ahead and play Honor Dead, so that will be nice. The other thing I can do, though, is play the Jeweler's Dream, and so that is also an option there. I opt to do that. I sacrifice the Dirk Saber. I figure that that's not necessary right now. And Priest of Light is always a great card to play against Aladar, so I'm just playing that, giving me 1 extra health and reducing the shadow energy by 1. That's going to help keep me alive for sure. Acid Jet there is quite strong, taking out my weapon. And here I go for Jeweler's Dream again. I like playing Jeweler's Dream because it just helps me be efficient with resources. I think that's something you really want to do as Amber. Amber is always a tempo hero at the end of the day, and so always making sure you're making the most out of your resources is pretty crucial. I do something pretty interesting here. This is a strategy you can use in your games that comes up quite often, and people don't often think about it. But Retreat says return target ally to its owner's hand, and well, Birgitte is my owned or my card. I own this card, and so if I play Retreat on Birgitte, it returns to my hand, not my opponent's hand. And so that's actually what I ended up going ahead and doing here. Now, the reason I do that is because I want to play Birgitte myself. As I mentioned earlier, Birgitte is actually a perfect counter to Zaladar because it prevents Zaladar from targeting my allies. So we just Birgitte here, and now all these allies are safe. And so even though Zaladar has its fresh ability, now he has to target the Birgitte. We just kind of totally countered his ability. Normally he could get rid of 2 of our allies there, but not in this case. And because he couldn't get rid of our allies, that's enough for lethal here. So we're able to just go ahead and kill him with his own allies, actually. These 2 we drew off of his Dimension Reaper. So that was the Amber versus a Zaladar matchup. Arguably not too bad, I think, because of the fact that Amber has such a good early game that it's hard to rush Amber down. Here, where though it's a little bit of a harder matchup, we've got a mage against Zhanna. Now, especially when Fire Snake dropped, I was really worried about this matchup because this is a very aggressive card. Now, I do want to talk about one of my choices here. So I chose not to play Retreat on Fire Snake. Now, generally, my advice is when you're thinking about when to play Retreat, you want to save Retreat for, I mean, at the very least, an ally that costs 2. If you're playing it on an ally that costs 1, they're just going to play it again. And so, had I retreated this Fire Snake, my opponent would have just played it again and played the Tome of Knowledge. So I think this is, you never really want to be playing Retreat on a Fire Snake. And I guess this just goes to back to a fundamental principle. You don't have to play your cards even if you can. And so holding off on that retreat there is going to help me, as you'll see later on. Here I'm just going to focus prayer this Tome of Knowledge. I really don't want my opponent to get a bunch of draw, and I'm hoping my opponent is just kind of bricked here. So that would have been nice. So here we see this Fire Snake and Infernal Gargoyle. I sacrifice a Wizent Staff because I have already a second copy here. I don't want to sacrifice my second copy because I think this is going to probably lose all its durability soon, but I think sacrificing the third copy is perfectly safe. Here my opponent did draw into the second Tome of Knowledge, which is very unfortunate, but ultimately to be expected. I would be shocked if he's not running 3 or 4 copies of this card. There I'm able to kill the Fire Snake, and because I have Focus Prayer, I actually choose not to play Focus Prayer. I choose to play Jasmine. I just want a little bit of board presence. I think that could help in this situation, just in case he plays any more allies. Just having the ability to kind of attack there is kind of helpful. All right, so here we go ahead and focus Prayer, the Tome of Knowledge, and we have another Jasmine, so we're just going to play that. Now, I attack the Death Mage Thaddeus because we don't have a Tidal Wave in hand right now. Otherwise, I might have considered going face even, but in this situation, I think it's a good idea to just try and deal with the board. So yeah, that's why we did that. Now, Jasmine actually has an ability. This is one of those older Call of the Crystal cards that you don't see anymore, but because of the nature of this format, it's actually really good. You target an opposing ally, and it can't attack until the end of its controller's next turn. So that's going to basically take this Infernal Gargoyle out of commission, and that's going to be super helpful for us. Now, this is their third Tome of Knowledge, which is very helpful for them. Um, and right there with that play, I'm totally anticipating a supernova. I actually take a lot of time thinking about this next move. Deathmage Thaddeus pinging Raven puts it on 5 health, which means that my opponent can just supernova here. And so I don't want to just, totally commit to killing both of these allies because I know that a supernova is coming. On the other hand, I don't want to let him attack my face with both of these. If I let the Infernal Gargoyle live, then I'm going to lose the Wizent Staff. And if I let the Deathmage Thaddeus live, I'm still going to take 2 face damage, which is pretty bad given that this is a mage I'm dealing with. So I ultimately decide to do is I just decide to play a little slow. I'm just going to play Jasmine to disable the Infernal Gargoyle. I figure disabling the Infernal Gargoyle is a safe bet because now if he supernovas, he's going to have to kill his own ally. And I kill the Deathmage Thaddeus with a combination of Aldon and Raven because that's going to save me 2 health. So that was a really tricky turn. I thought about a lot of things, like maybe playing Tainted Oracle there, maybe Ravening the Infernal Gargoyle, but that is what I ultimately settled on, just because here I've got a second Wizent Staff, so now I'm just going for that draw power and dropping this Tainted Oracle. Now I do want to talk about the most valuable card in my deck, and that is probably going to be this Healing Touch. And we're going to see the Healing Touch put in a lot of work in the following turns, but I just want to shout it out right now. It's a card that you don't usually see that much, but a card that is super crucial in this matchup. Anyway, I play Aeon here. Aeon is pretty solid against mages because mages sometimes tend to have a hard time with fatties, and actually, especially before Shadow Bolt was printed, I think you had to have Transmogrification Curse, and I'm not sure if my opponent is running that. Anyway, as you can see, my opponent is using Magia's ability and also Lightning Strike, so at least we're getting some of those activations out of the way there. Now, arguably, I could have used Healing Touch on the Aeon, but I'm much more concerned about my own health. So, and there I just go ahead and use Aeon's ability on top of Raven. Okay, and I kind of break my own rule there. I used Retreat on the Fire Snake just to save 1 health. So, okay, I know that was, I said earlier in this game that, you should never retreat a 1-cost ally. Well, there are always exceptions to the rules, and that was one of them. I need to save every single point of health I have, and so I've got my draw going because of Wizent Staff, and I don't really mind kind of effectively wasting a card to make sure I'm not going to take 1 damage. Arguably, I could have used Aeon to kill the Fire Snake, but in this position, I just wanted to make sure that I'm also dealing some damage to my opponent and not just letting my opponent, not putting any pressure on my opponent at all. So here I go for the double Healing Touch. I calculate that my opponent could have, a Supernova and a Fireball, and or 3 Fireballs. So I need to be above 12 health, or 14 health really. I need to be above 14 health because otherwise 3 Fireballs would win the game for my opponent. And so I just go ahead and just play it safe. And yeah. So, yeah, I think here with the Raven dead, it's looking like the best move for me is to Tidal Wave. So that's one of the strengths of Priests. You get into a bad situation like this is, and you kind of go for what you can, your Tidal Wave to save you. So 13 health is fine because even 3 Fireballs is not going to kill me. I guess maybe a Supernova and Fireball, might have worked. But yeah, um, overall that would have been very lucky. He would have had to top deck into that. So yeah, overall, that's why I chose not to play the Healing Touch there. But now I do have to play the Healing Touch because otherwise I am probably going to die to burn power. I don't want to use Wizent Staff anymore because of the fact that Wizent Staff is actually going to lose me Shadow Energy, and I want to use the Hero Power to heal 3. And here's the crucial turn of the game. I think if my opponent had 3 Fireballs here, it might have been game, but now my opponent was forced to Supernova and essentially kill themselves. And that was the Zhanna versus Magia matchup. Anyway, I just wanted to make this video because this is kind of, like, those were pretty cool games because they only used Crystals cards. Cards from arguably the weakest set because it was the first set. So a lot of these cards are not seen as much. You do still see Aldon the Brave, and you still do see Tainted Oracle, but cards like Raven Wildheart and Aeon Stormcaller used to be very, very powerful and are no longer as powerful. Um, yeah, some of these cards you do still see: the King's Pride, Wizent Staff, Tidal Wave, and other cards I think like Healing Touch have kind of fallen out of favor. Now I do want to cover the Amber deck, and nope, this is not the right Amber deck. This is the right Amber deck. This is the Amber deck I was running. Now this is also has some unusual choices. Birgitte, for example, and I should mention Dirk Saber used to be, I think, a 2 attack, 2 health ally. It has since been buffed. So I guess technically, in some senses, it's not strictly a Call of the Crystals deck because it retained some of the buffs some of these cards got. But anyway, yeah, this is the Amber deck. Yeah, a couple of cards have actually been changed, like Dimension Ripper too. But honestly, this Amber deck is pretty standard. Aside from Aeon, actually these days people run in this spot. They usually run Visca. And Visca is a Shattered Fates card, so that's why they used Aeon as the curve topper. So yeah, I just think it's really cool to see what people did back in the day, you know, and I think a lot of the decks that people ran, you know, in 2012, funnily enough, you still see some of the same cards run, you know, 12, 11 years later. So yeah, it's really cool to see some of these older decks. I had a lot of fun playing them, and I hope you had fun watching some of those replays. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. This was, yeah, let me know what you think about these decks in the comments below. And my obligatory shout out is going to be to, I'm running a crowdfunding campaign soon for Chroma Mix. You can watch out for that on June 1st on GameFound. Anyway, that's the end of the video, so thank you for watching.